Okay, but hold on. Some of this is like semantics to me. Whether they have a better squad or not, they're not. They should not be blowing us out in
Oh
two
yeah, agreed,
Clásicos,
agreed,
nine
agreed, agreed.
nine
Yeah,
two. To be like when Chesney got the red card, it it was not like a wind in our sails to come back. All it was, it just stopped the bleeding. They stopped attacking and
yeah,
prevented this from being like 10-2. And I just think like the way it was so predictable in the sense that Ancelotti starts every Clasico the same way. He just gives so much respect to Barcelona and he tries to play counter-attacking football. That's fine. In theory, I actually don't have a problem with that because it does maximize our strength in transition. But where I have a problem with it is that we can't play defense for shit. We can't defend. It doesn't matter if we're pressing, because we were pressing sometimes, as Matt said earlier. It doesn't matter if we're in a low block. We don't defend. So, like, if you want to play counter-attacking football, the first step is to win. The first step is to win the ball. We can't win the ball. We can't track runners. If you look at, like, we had like this double pivot of Kamavinga and Fede, and
we
whether
were
it was
all over the
Pedri,
place.
yeah, we were all over the place. Whether it was Pedri or Gavi or Lewandowski, who was the architect of the Lamine Yamal goal, or even Casado dropping in there, venturing forward, like they could just run between the lines and avoid any conflict. Like there was no resistance from us. Kamavinga and Fede had no idea who was behind them, who was ahead of them, and it was just a mess. So we can't defend, we can't win the ball. The first step of counterattacking is to win the ball, then transition attack. Our transition attacks suck balls. That Mbappe goal was nice, and that was it. That was it. Shout out to Mbappe, who was for like maybe the first time this season was like the least of our problems. Not that
Yeah.
he was ever like our main problem, but like he actually had a good game today.
He was.
Yes, he
He
was.
was
He was
last
He
one of
time.
the
was,
few bright
yeah,
spots.
he was doing
He
he
was
was
our main
doing
problem last time, Kiyan. Don't forget, but
right.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so then there's obvious tactical problems because even when Barca went down to two men and we were facing a Barca low block, we still had no idea how to penetrate. Like we had ball progressors on the field like Ceballos and Modric. They really had no idea what to do with the ball other than spray it out wide to like Asensio or Fede Valverde at right back and then cross it to Rudiger. Like we had no plan. Even Barca had like a spell of play in the 80th or 81st minute. Despite having 10 men, they always had an open man. And I think the fundamental difference between Carlo and Flick or whoever, like I'll just stick to today's game, but Barca were just superior positionally. Like there's a reason why they're first to every 50-50 ball. There's a reason why none of the 50-50 balls ever arrived at our feet. Like it never fell to us. And the reason for that is because we're just not positionally in the right spaces to take advantage of a loose ball or to pounce on it or to win it. Any transition attack that we did have was like Vinny, you beat Kunde. When you beat Kunde, cut in and beat like Casado. And then you got to drill past this man. Rodrigo, drop your shoulder, beat this guy, and then cut back, beat Balde. You still don't have an open player to pass to, so beat someone else, please. And then like there's no, it's a lot of onus on individual brilliance. And that when I say individual brilliance, I don't even mean like just normal individual brilliance. It's like you need superstar attacking brilliance, like generational players doing stuff that no one else can do in order to succeed, which is
Exactly. That's the problem. This last 4 years, like every time we win, it's because someone went into God mode. That's why we win. Jude becomes God. Benzema becomes God. The best season of their career. If they replicate it ever again for any team, that would be seen like as the best stretch by that player in club history. And the problem with Carlos, whenever we lose a big game, it's always we're short to 50-50s. This is probably my biggest, like he's improved the offense a lot. The transition offense can be very good. But the biggest difference with Zidane, I feel like, is we're always short to 50-50s. We're very rarely compact. I mean, it just feels like a broken record saying it. It just feels like we're 4 years in now, and you just
I
wonder if
mean,
more pressure.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a little unfair just to say those players went into God mode and that's the only reason why we won. Like for them to go into God mode, the components have to be there and the setup has to be there. And like Jude even had an interview, I don't know when it was, like a day or two ago, where he talked about how like, oh yeah, people think it's luck, but when you do it over and over again, like it's that type of thing where I think it's too easy to just say players went into God mode. So, but I 100% agree with both of you in that, like the way we're set up today and the way we've been set up all season, it hasn't made sense. There's been a few games where we're like, yeah, this is clicking. This is clicking. It feels like he finally figured it out. But I just feel like this season, Ancelotti hasn't been able to man up and make the big decisions. Like Lucas shouldn't be playing right back, at least not in a game of this magnitude. Fede, you're sorry, you're gonna have to play right back. Like that's the way it is. Tchouaméni should honestly never play center back in a big game ever again.
Question, Matt. One question on that note. I totally agree with you, but as we've seen in the fall, the results have just kind of stabilized. There wasn't a game. Was there a game in the last month when Vasquez and Tchouaméni played when you think Carlo? I get he didn't have the balls. I totally agree with you. But if you're Carlo, do you summon the balls when you're getting those results in December? Things are finally looking okay. Would you have the balls to bench one of them in this game? Or would you only have the balls to do so after losing a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I mean, I think you've seen enough from Lucas in particular over the stretch of these games where you're like, man, we don't get away with this with Lucas at right back. Like, Kiyan, how many times have you said, I think this is the weakest fullback pairing we've had in our history? And then Tchouaméni, like you can get away with it in certain games, especially I think games where you know you're going to have a lot of the ball and you're pressing high, you're recovering possession in your own half, and like you've got a team pinned in, and Tchouaméni's really great building out of the back. Like that I'm okay with. But games today where you really have to have a high defensive IQ from that center back position and really be kind of I'll say it, a natural center back, a natural defender. Like you've been in those situations so many times, you know what to do and have the quote unquote pessimistic attitude that Carlo talks about. Like he just doesn't have that. And I'm telling you, I'm going to try and like clip these moments because I was watching him and some of the runs Rafinha would make in between him and Lucas. And there are moments where Lucas is the one that gets made to look bad because he has to go in, like Rafinha comes out, like weaves out to Lucas's side. And so it makes him look bad that he wasn't marking Rafinha, but it was actually Tchouaméni that should have stepped out and Lucas should just cover centrally. And Tchouaméni just never left his spot. He just stood still like on those runs that I couldn't understand it. And so I've seen enough of Tchouaméni at center back, and honestly, he's not fast. Tchouaméni's not fast. Like at Real Madrid, you need to be a fast center back.
And I want to shift this conversation to like what are actual tangible things that need to be done at this juncture. And personally, I think that Ancelotti is staying till the end of the season. I don't see him getting sacked anytime soon. So let's stick with the like conversation of like within the realm of possibility of what can be done now, because obviously the truth is we are far from having a finished season. We're well in position to win the league. We are in it in the Champions League, regardless of our place in the standings. To me, these are just some things. I think you have to bring in a right back, and if you don't, you have to demote Lucas Vasquez from that starting position. If he wants to start at home against Getafe, fine. And if it takes Fede Valverde going to right back, I understand that's not ideal, but I think we have little choice at this point. The Asensio, I think, needs to just start getting groomed over Tchouaméni. I don't know what Alaba is going to be like when he comes back. Hopefully that'll be some kind of help, and you hope that you get a really good version of David Alaba back. I'm not sure. The board has to step in and do something with the back line. And if not, Ancelotti really needs to do something about Lucas Vasquez. He can't be our right back from now until June. We're not winning anything with him there. If we win anything, it's in spite of him, not because of him. I also think there just needs to... Matt, your question made me think at the beginning of the podcast. Are we sure like our midfield is better? Modric is not the same player he used to be. We have a lot of reliance right now on Dani Ceballos as a vertical passer in midfield. I think Camavinga probably needs to be part of a much better system in midfield that's not as vulnerable, not as permeable. Maybe Fede Valverde is just getting burnt to the ground, and that's kind of what worries me about him being a possible right back solution, is that he really has nothing. He's not going to have much left in the tank. So I'm just curious to know what you guys think are like actual real solutions now. Like, January, we're midway through the season. We've seen enough of this team to judge whether this team is good or not, in my opinion. It's nice to see Mbappe come good. I just don't know how the hell you fix that defense. I'd like to make a point earlier to what Matt was saying about Carlo and trusting players and bringing in Lorenzo Aguado and those kinds of players. I think I don't know if there's anyone actually saying this, but I think like maybe you could make an argument that Carlo can bring in, for example, a Lorenzo in a game like this. However, while I get that part of it, this should have been like someone like Lorenzo Aguado or Jesus Fortea, for example, should have been groomed long time ago and eased in so that when the time comes when you need them in a big game, that they're ready. So that there is no, oh, we're throwing you into the fire. The only reason we know Raul Asensio can play in a game like this is because we were forced to play him earlier. And so if it was a situation, for example, that like all of a sudden, last week was the week that Militao tore his ACL and we had no defenders left, then Raul Asensio was not coming in today because we wouldn't have trusted him. But because we gave him the reps earlier on because we were forced to, we knew he was ready for tonight.
100% agree.